soundstage here at Wellington High School of the Digital Media Classroom. Welcome to another episode of Dialogue with the Dukes. This morning's show is being brought to you, as always, by the Patricia Lindley Center for the Performing Arts, located in the McCormick Middle School, adjacent to the high school, and also by the Wellington Music Store, located at 117 West Herrick, here in downtown Wellington. Our student helpers this morning are Kevin Rutkowski and Tom Logar. This morning we have the opportunity to introduce one of the village residents here in Wellington, depicting the series depicting how the Wellington School District and the Wellington community itself is in line or helps develop successful American citizens. And with that, we have Mr. Mitch Cloudt. Good morning. He is the boss, the head, what would you call yourself? The entrepreneur of MTC, the landscaping business in Pittsford, just north of Wellington. Welcome. As we said, you graduated from Wellington High School, I believe, in 2003, so that was like 17 years ago. So you've had, it's been quite a while since you were back here at the high school, I imagine. What extracurricular activities were you involved in? I know with FFA you were very heavily involved with that. If you could talk to us a little bit about the extracurricular activities in the FAA itself. FFA itself.
Yeah, I was started out when I got out of middle school and got into high school. I wanted to join a group that kind of went along with what I enjoyed doing, and I always enjoyed agriculture, so I got involved in FFA in my freshman year. Really took a liking to it and started to be really involved beyond just going to class every day. There's a lot of after school activities that you can do. It's a great program. It really promotes leadership and it promotes self-growth. And I used a lot of the platforms in FFA to excel in what I do today, and I still use it.
Well, I believe you also said that you were the president of the FFA. What extra activities did that involve?
As far as being a president, you know, you're basically leading a group of people, your peers, that are in that club with you together. And we went to different things such as, you know, state FFA convention, national FFA convention. And when you do that, you're kind of out of the whole school element and you're kind of with those people 24/7. So you start to learn how life works a little bit, and it teaches you to, you know, guide the younger generation into, you know, how to be responsible adults that can actually achieve something.
Well, although we didn't talk about this, obviously you must have been heavily involved with the Lorain County Fair every year.
Yeah. I was always, I took steers and pigs to the fair, had several different proficiency projects that I ran through FFA and did at the fair. And then I always would, you know, I think for like 13 years I was in the Combine Derby on Saturday nights. So,
okay. Did you win?
I think I came in second one year, but out of all that, but yeah, it was a good time.
Well, you were involved also in, or at least up for several awards, including a Star State candidate. If you could talk about the awards that you were involved in when you were in high school.
Yeah, FFA has a set of awards that are on different levels. There's proficiency awards, which basically highlight a project that you're doing, and my project was my landscape and lawn care business that I had started in high school, and I ended up on my senior year, I was the Star State candidate from Wellington and ended up winning Star State in agricultural business at the state level, and then I went on to be the state of Ohio's FFA Star State and Agribusiness candidate for American Star State degree. I did not get the American, but I was the candidate, which was pretty prestigious because there was only 3 kids in the state to do that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, obviously, you had to take courses in high school that actually have turned out to actually be involved in the work that you do. Your favorite subjects in high school?
Favorite subjects I always enjoyed math. It really challenged me to come up with new things. I wasn't always the greatest at it, but I did enjoy going to it. And then history, even to this day, still really interests me, and I take a lot of time looking into history and trying to understand how things worked. And to, they always say when you're in history, you learn history. You're learning that so that you don't repeat the mistakes of the past.
The past, yeah. I wish we could continue to learn about that today.
Right.
Well, when we come back after this message, we'll talk about how Mr. Cloudt got involved in landscaping and how he determined very, very early in his life about what he wanted to do in the future. This is Dialogue with the Dukes. We are back. We hope that if you or your organization has anything that you would like to have wide dissemination throughout the village, consider using the Patricia Lindley Center for the Performing Arts. We've been talking with Mr. Mitch Cloudt, who is the owner of MTC Landscaping. They are just north of Wellington, on towards between Oberlin and Wellington. And we talked during the first portion about what he did in high school, being involved with FFA, and how he got involved with agriculture and things like that. But one of the first questions that when I talked with him prior to the interview, one of the things that I was very impressed with was the fact that he decided way back as a freshman in high school what he actually wanted to do. So talk about how you were how you got involved within agriculture and specifically in landscaping so early when you were a freshman, and how you got involved in that path very early as a high school student.
Well, I had a really good friend of mine that his dad, his name was Dan Ziegler. He went here to high school with me, and his dad, Kyle Ziegler, owned a landscaping company here in Wellington. He was really influential in me starting my business and going about doing it. I kind of watched what he did, and I used him as a mentor for years, and unfortunately a year or so ago he passed away. But he was just always there for me to pick me up in hard times and give me really good mentorship through life to get going. So in high school, my parents always kind of encouraged me to try to figure out what you want to do in life. Try to push forward and always have a path that you want to go down. Because being lost to my parents was just not an option. You had to know what you wanted to do and where you wanted to go. So at an early age, they encouraged me to pick something, just whatever it is, something you might like to do, just pick something and get going on it. And if you don't like it, then you can change it later. But begin somewhere. So I chose when I was a freshman to start a lawn care business. It kind of worked. My parents had rental properties. I knew quite a few people in the area that they were in that had rental properties. So I started mowing grass and making money. And then I was always motivated by money. So
which we'll talk about in a little bit, but go ahead.
Yeah, it was something that I enjoyed it. It was outside. It was doing things that were kind of independent. You could do your own thing and set your own schedule. And I knew that, once I got started in high school, FFA helped me also push into that. Well, this was a reason to go to work every day.
Sure.
We can kill two birds with one stone. So that's what I ended up getting into it early in my life, and I kind of stuck with it.
Well, you were talking about how your parents were involved, and also your friend's dad. Were you actually able to set goals way back as a freshman in high school for what you actually wanted to do later in life?
Yeah, my family, they were into farming and agriculture before I was born, and then once I was born, they kind of sold the farm out and got out of it, and I was about a generation too late. I really enjoyed going over friends' farms and things like that, and I worked on a farm when I was in high school, and I knew that was something that I wanted to do in some capacity when I was older, but I also knew that took a lot of money. You can't just walk into farming with $20 in a lunchbox and expect to do something. So at that point in time, I started to research and figure out how much money it was really going to take, and I figured out real quickly it was going to take at least $1 million to get started in it. So I got a long road to go. So
Well, one of the things that obviously helped you along with those goals was that you continued your education at ATI at the Ohio State University. What did you study, and what were the things that you were involved in when you were at ATI?
Blowing off of high school, coming into college, it kind of went hand in hand. I was in agriculture in ATI, and it was basically the degree I took was landscape contracting and construction. It was a degree designed towards landscapers, lawn care guys that either want to work in the industry or be an entrepreneur and have your own business. So I got into that, and we studied all kinds of things from plant identification to plant care to turf identification. They taught us all kinds of stuff about equipment, repairing small engines, a lot of stuff that just applied to the industry. And then along with that came all the curriculums of college, your Englishes and all that kind of stuff too, that helped you along. In my case, starting my own business, it just helps you be more articulate and understand how the world works better.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the business aspect of it, because another thing that you were involved in with ATI was you were kind of being, for lack of a better term, forced to learn other subjects other than within the agriculture, such as learning about turf, or learning about how equipment is operated, what equipment you need to have, and so on. So you were kind of forced to learn a little bit about something more than just specifically being in landscaping.
Yeah, it pushes you outside your comfort zone, and college is a big step up from high school. There's not anybody telling you to do anything anymore.
Right.
You have to be self-motivated when
Sure.
you get out of here, and understand that your life is in your hands, and go get it.
Sure.
Because they're not gonna hold your hand and make you. They will help you, but they will not just wake you up in the morning and tell you to go do something. So
Exactly. Well, before we get into actually you being a business owner, another thing that you did prior to being a business owner was that you were involved in an internship with, I believe you said, the #3 landscaping company in America.
yeah, at the time they were #3 in the United States. The company's name was Brickman, the Brickman Group, and they were huge. They were nationwide. And I ended up landing an internship in Columbus, Ohio with them. It was something that at the time, I was like, well, I can do this myself. I have my own company.
Sure.
But my parents and my professors and advisors down there, they kind of encouraged me to step outside the box a little bit and go learn somebody else's stuff. Man, that was the best thing that I ever did. Walking into a corporate setting like that, and my company's rather small. I mean, we have 20 guys, but you go to a place like that and you're working with 30, 40, 50 guys, and that's only one branch of 3 that were in Columbus at the time. And it forces you to look more at the corporate setting and how the world actually works outside of Wellington, Ohio. And it was really eye-opening to me to understand how things worked, and how much money is out in the world that actually gets spent every day on just things that you never would spend a dime on. And it was a really good experience. I learned a lot. A lot of those techniques and things that we did there in that corporate setting are actually still used today in my landscape company, because they were such good techniques. So.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the fact that the money aspect involved, and you talked about how it takes $1 million to get something started. So you actually, and you already mentioned it yourself, you were highly motivated by wanting to earn money. So how did that get you involved in the business itself?
Well, once you start, you get out there and you have to set up a business plan, and you just learn what it's going to cost to do this business, and then you start to set your profits. And even to this day, a couple weeks from now, I have to go to another seminar to help hone your skills on learning how to make money. Profit's not a dirty word. I know people have heard that, and it's the truth. You need to make a profit to make a living to get to your goals, to where you want to go. So I learned at an early age how to set up all your expenses and figure out what things are going to cost, and then figure out that profit margin at the end. and how to get there, and you set a profit that's reasonable that the industry will withstand. You know, you don't want to go too high because then you won't have any business. You don't want to go too low because then you're working for nothing. So there's an area there that people will spend that amount of money to have you do something. So I tried to stay at the top end of that because we try to do things better, and that's what I try to do. So yeah, I mean, at a real early age, I learned that, you know, money was not a bad thing, and you know, there's a dialogue around, it seems anymore, that, you know, well, money isn't everything. Well, I'll tell you what, my outlook on that is money isn't everything, but money sure does make it a lot easier.
Yeah.
So, you know, you need money in life to be able to do things. So go out there and figure out a way to get it. You know, there's different molds for different people. Not everybody needs to be a millionaire, but you need to find where you want to be and how happy you want to be in what you do, and then kind of settle into that and go after it.
Well, that's a perfect transition into what we want to talk about, as we always talk about within this series, talking with successful Wellington graduates, and that is the life lessons that you've kind of learned. And so you've already talked about one, the lesson of money and things like that. Another lesson that you talked about with me was that you had to learn how to be your own boss.
Yeah. When you're your own boss, you've got to be self-motivated, and you have to be understanding. And if you're going to have employees, you really have to be understanding of other people. For me, that's a little challenging at times because that's just not the way my personality is set up. But I have to force myself to understand there's different ways of looking at things and different ways that people envision their life being, and you have to be sensitive to that. And as far as that's concerned, you know, you work with them every day, but then at the end of the day, you have to come back and look at yourself and say, okay, where are we going, and what am I doing to make myself the important successful business owner that all of these guys that are looking to you every day are looking to make sure that you're successful so that they can be successful. So that's really important to keep pushing yourself every day to be better.
Mm-hmm. Well, and obviously that kind of involves something that I guess would be a corollary. You had to learn what to do correctly and what not to do.
Yeah, there was a lot of learning curves. I've been doing this now for 20 years, and I feel that I am better today than I was 10 years ago, and I'm hoping I'm a lot better than I was 20 years ago. I've learned a lot of things, made a lot of mistakes along the way, and fortunately I've been able to work through those mistakes and come back stronger and understand better how to deal with things.
Mm-hmm. Well, to wrap this up a little bit, going back to the beginning, so to speak, how you learned or you decided way back as a freshman what you wanted to do in life. So therefore, if you could give the students an idea of choosing classes that they most would like to take, or what classes to take to get involved within your own goals, not only within high school, but then if you decide to go on to get an associate's degree like you did and the internship, how do you get involved, or how do you decide what classes to take within high school, and if you decide to go on to get an associate's degree or even a 4-year degree?
Well, Bill, I think a lot of it comes back to you have to set yourself up when you're young to have a goal, have a large goal in life. Have a goal where you might not reach that goal until you're 50 years old, but try to set something up and make it very generalized and very. You want to be able to attain your goals, but sometimes you don't quite get to them. But you want to make it something that can be achieved in your mind.
Yes, exactly.
And when you do that, it starts to narrow down a path that you can start to walk down in life. And okay, well, am I going to take this math class that I really don't think that's going to fit into this goal that I have? Let's go and take a different class that fits better. I did that at a young age, and it really helped me out because it started to carve that path that you can walk down and really start to, okay, next year it's even easier to pick classes because I already know where I'm going. This helped me out in this direction. I'm moving in this direction more and more and more, and you start to stuff that you may have taken and because you just didn't know what you wanted to do, you start to say, well, that doesn't make sense for me. This makes more sense. Mm-hmm. And once you do that, it helps you get along further. I always said this back when I was in school, they were just starting like I don't even know what they call it now, the college classes that you can take. Mm-hmm. And I've always said that that's a really big head start for people. If you can get into something like that, or even the JBS, and pick a field that you want to go into, man, you're going to be leap years ahead of people. Mm-hmm. So.
Well, we're gonna let Mr. Cloudt actually do a commercial now. He does own MTC. Give us a little commercial about what you're involved in, how to contact you, and so on.
MTC Horticultural Services is a lawn and landscape business. We've been in business for 20 years now, and we also do lawn care, landscaping. We sell bulk materials. We have a trucking company, and we do commercial dump trucking. So we work for different construction companies, hauling on job sites, building malls, building roads, doing things like that. So we're very diversified, and we can help a lot of people out. We're up in Pittsfield at the corner of State Route 303 and State Route 58. And our phone number is 440-774-5713. If you need something, give us a call.
Perfect. Couldn't be better. I'm glad we had the opportunity to actually give yourself a commercial.
Thank you.
Well, once again, we'd like to thank Mr. Mitch Cloudt for coming in and talking to us about how he actually got involved so early as a freshman in high school with what he wanted to do. And of course, not everybody can make a decision like that. So it's not something that has to be done. I think you would agree with that. No. But it's something to think about getting involved in even as early as a freshman in high school. We'll be back again next week with another episode of Dialogue with the Dukes.